Hey everybody, welcome to the Bonner Breakdown. This is Chris. Welcome to Season 3. This is the first episode of Season 3, but it's actually episode 31. And I'm here today with Katie Cox, who is the Executive Director at the Kaniksu Land Trust. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. It's so fun to be on the third season.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
It is exciting. I'm just kind of shocked that it's had this much momentum. I knew it was serving a need, but I'm glad the popularity is continuing to grow for the show, which is good. And so we start off every single show. We start off with what we call the good report, because we made a conscious decision up front that we wanted to be a show that focused on positives, not always the negatives and fear, but we want to hear good reports and hear the good things going on. So, Katie, what do you have for us? What's your good report today?
Well, I think something that'd be really fun to share is that this week we received a partial grant from the Bonner Soil and Water Conservation District.
Okay.
So I don't know if all of you remember March 17th. It was a very windy day,
St. Patty's
tremendously
Day.
Windy day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a little Irish wind blew.
Oh my gosh. And it was like right at the start of, everything was happening with COVID. The wind was blowing. I think all of us in town were thinking like, what is happening in our world?
Craziness.
But
yeah,
it was craziness. So that day, a huge, as our beloved forester Bill Love told us, in terms of sort of breaking down that windstorm, the winds came down the Purcell Trench. They slingshotted around Mickinick and then headed in a straight line. And what was in that straight line was the Manning Buffer. The Manning Buffer is a piece of property in Pine Street Woods that was donated by Ellie Krause 2 years ago.
Wow.
And it's beloved because it's what Greta's segue up to the signboard. It's that area. And so this wind whipped through there and took down an entire landscape of huge timber.
Wow.
And so it was devastating. We had to close the trail. Pop, Ponderay Peddlers helped us close the trail. We rerouted into Pine Street Woods for a time and tried to get our hands around and our heads around the situation and what we were going to do about it, because it was pretty devastating in there. And so through this work and sort of work we had done visioning at KLT in the past, we started thinking about how could our community, and we always try to think about this, how could our community benefit from this episode? And we started thinking about the ability that we have. One of our strongest parts of our program is education, not only education for children, but education for adults. Okay. And how can we use this as an educational moment? And so we credit Chad, our conservation director's husband, with really planting the seed and the idea about having a community lumber mill. And so we started, we started spinning on this we have a great partnership with Idaho Forest Group. Idaho Forest Group and Kaniksu Land Trust have a lovely working partnership. Their foresters help us out. And in this, they were going to be able to take a huge number of these trees for us. The down trees ended up being about 4 to 6 log trucks full loads of timber. But the mills right now it's a lot of wood.
Wow.
It's a lot of wood.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I say it was devastating, it was quite devastating. So this is a very long story that I'm telling you.
It's all good.
Making even longer.
Hey, come on. It's the good report. Take your time. No worries.
So, but IFG can't take pine right now. They're not taking pine. Pine's not worth anything in the sort of more industrial sawmill. So we were left with, we have all of this pine out of this batch. What are we going to do with it? And so we decided to jump into this project, and we thought about the potential, since we are a community forest and we need to manage this forest for the life of it. And it's Pine Street Woods is 180 acres. Okay. And we're going to have to constantly be managing it. And what are we going to do with those resources when we have to take timber out to continue to create healthy forests?
Right.
So we approached the Bonner County Soil and Water Conservation District about an idea to purchase a portable log mill
Okay.
and then allow that portable log mill to process these logs, but also let us use it for education, so that we could have classes. We could teach people about like how to look at their own forest, how to look to see if a tree is diseased, how to chainsaw a tree. I'm going to take the
Right.
first women's chainsaw class,
Get
and
it.
then how to process it and put it through
Yeah.
the mill.
That's
And
great.
so we're going to develop a little brand called Kaniksu Lumber, where anybody from the public, can come and purchase lumber from Kaniksu Land Trust for your chicken coop, for your kids' playhouse, and so you'll be able to utilize wood from your own community forest.
That's
So we
awesome.
got a partial grant, and that's our good news for this week.
Come on, that is a good report. That is awesome. I
Yay!
like that. That's great. I'll share mine. I had two. The first one was that this weekend someone got lost up on Scotchman's Peak, and that's a huge amount of space, a huge trail area. She got separated from her group. Cell phone coverage wasn't working, and search and rescue went out there, and they were using drones and different things to try and find her. Which I just love the fact that there's this embrace of technology when it comes to some of this stuff, and stepping up to the next level of capacity and being able to help find people up there. So she got found. It was great. Good end of that story. That's a good report.
Yes,
And then
a
the
great
other one
report.
was, we had we manage the property out at Trestle Creek. We have some rental properties there in a transitional house for people who found themselves to be homeless for whatever reason. And we give them a 2-year window at the transitional house to get into some type of permanent housing, to get on their feet, get a job, get whatever settled in their life they need settling. And so at the property there was a flood on the property because the creek that runs through the back of the property had some debris from that exact windstorm.
Darn windstorm.
Yep. And it had flooded the property. And so, the fire department and emergency management services all came out and helped clear out the creek, got it all. But we needed a team to get out there to do sandbagging. And the resource center went hunting for us, and they found 8 people within 2 hours to come out. And 3 hours after we put out the request, we had a team out there piling up sandbags on the property and helping us, kind of maintain the water level there. So that's a good report to me. Our community's so great at jumping in on the fly, and I feel like we're getting, even through this COVID-19 process, we're getting even a little bit more connected. Even with all the craziness of politics in this election cycle, there's a lot of people who are really getting well connected with each other, and the connections seem to be showing. So that's all.
I agree.
It's all good news. So hey, let's give a cheers to the good
Cheers.
report. Awesome. All right. Good.
Cheers.
See, it always tastes better doing it together, doesn't it?
It does.
All right. Well, Katie, now I want to kind of dive into this interview a little bit, because you actually you've been in Idaho a long time. It's kind of, you grew up here, not necessarily in Sandpoint, but you grew up in Idaho. So give us a little bit of your history and your background, and let the world know a little bit about Katie.
Okay, let's see. Yes, I am a native Idahoan, born and raised partially, for the most part, in Moscow, Idaho. I graduated from Moscow High School, but I had a little stint in there in a little tiny town that not a lot of people know about, but everybody should visit. The town's called Elk City. Okay. And Elk City is in the middle of the state of Idaho. If you look on like a map that identifies like private property, it is dead in the center of national forest. Wow. In the middle of the state. It's on 13. It's about 70 miles on a dead end road southeast from Grangeville, Idaho.
Okay.
And it's a little town of, I don't know how many people live there now. When I was there, the lumber mill was going, a gold mine was coming in, so it was bustling at like 700 people in town. There were 3 of us in my grade, me and 2 twins. And so I was there from my mom married a forester from Elk City, and so and they still live there. I was there from eighth grade to through 10th grade, where then we had to leave because you could only get so many credits at that time through distance education in the state of Idaho. I was a very early adopter of distance education,
which everybody is now.
Which everybody is doing now, but it looks very different than when I did it. I did it on like KUID TV, public television. My Spanish teacher was down in Boise, Idaho, and I just called in.
That's cool. Wow.
Anyway, that's my little stint. I went to the University of Idaho and studied education, and but quite quickly realized as soon as close to graduation that what I was really passionate about was architecture. But I stayed on and worked for the University of Idaho for 5 years in first in capital planning and capital budget on two major buildings, the Idaho Commons and the Student Rec Center, where I helped fundraise for those two facilities and worked with the students on what they wanted in those buildings. And then I took off after 5 years and went for my graduate degree at the University of Washington in Seattle. Okay. And my husband and I moved over there. He's native Idahoan as well. He's from Lewiston, Idaho.
Oh, great.
And we moved over there and to the point where we started having a family. And then we decided it's time to move home to Idaho. We loved our time there. We loved being in the bigger city, but we really missed the snow, actually. We missed the seasons. Right.
Yeah, I've got friends that when we tell them we love the seasons here, like we love the snow, like it's like it doesn't bother us at all. They're like, what? You know, like it's like
exactly.
It's like you can see something in their heads, just like this does not compute. But no, I hear you. So you guys came back over here and you guys decided on Sandpoint. Why Sandpoint?
Well, at the time, my husband was the president of a lumber company that was based out of Shelton, Washington, but they had a mill over here in Naples, Idaho, and still do. And it was a family-owned company, which it's not anymore, but it was a family-owned company at the time. And the family, being from Seattle, but they also had a house here in Sandpoint and loved Sandpoint, and so. It came to a point where Brian just asked them, well, because he was commuting a lot back and forth between Naples and Olympia. And he said, could we just change the location? Could I live in Sandpoint and then commute back to Olympia instead? And the family was great with it. They said, yes.
Oh, good.
I mean,
That's
I think if they could live here full time, I know Dick would probably do that. So
that's cool. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah. His job allowed him to move over here, and we loved Sandpoint. It feels like Idaho, and then plus the lake and the ski mountain. We are huge outdoor people, so
yeah,
that was like calling us.
This place is just hard to beat.
Oh, it was. I was back in Olympia, taking my daughter to Crystal Mountain, driving 3 hours. Trying to teach her to ski on on the butt. Like imagine driving to Schweitzer 3 hours to ski on not like the musical carpet or magic carpet.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. I was doing that. And I was like, this is so silly.
Yeah.
No. So
come on. We get, this is pinch yourself country. That's what I'm starting to call it. Just pinch yourself because it's real. Like you really do live here. It's amazing.
And that's the whole state of Idaho. I mean, when you go and explore any part of Idaho,
Man.
I hope this broadcast stops at the Idaho border, but no, just kidding. But
wait, what? So I'll tell you, we do an annual summer trek down to Wyoming because we have friends that live just about an hour and a half south of Jackson Hole. And and so we will drive. If you take 200 and you take that trek and then you head down the scenery.
Oh,
when you cross back from Montana back into southern Idaho, it just it just is epic. It's beautiful.
Epic.
It's epic.
You know, we went on Kaniksu Land Trust was graciously given a gift from the Middle Fork River Tours of a trip that we used as a fundraising opportunity.
Awesome.
On the Middle Fork this last summer. And so that was my first time on the Middle Fork. And
Oh, really?
I have to say, like, having grown up in Idaho, I thought like my love of Idaho and my love of this every place in Idaho was so big. Like there was, I didn't know how I could be like blown away even more. Mm-hmm. And then you go in there to the Middle Fork and you're like, this state is amazing.
Amazing. Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. We love it. Mm-hmm. it. So you guys settled down here, and what got you connected with Kaniksu Land Trust? Like, how did that connection happen?
Interesting. So Eric Grace and I'm a runner, and I first met Eric at, interestingly enough, on a race over in Washington, the Cutthroat Classic, and got to know him and got to really know like what Kaniksu Land Trust was. And that was really early on in the time that Eric had moved here from New York and was working on bringing a different type of work to Kaniksu Land Trust, which we call community conservation. Mm-hmm. And so it was really intriguing what they were doing. And so I started just supporting, really like $25, $50, starting to support the work that they did, because I felt like this is important work. Like, that's especially great. As an Idahoan, thinking about making conservation happen so that like the aspects that we just talk about and we rave about, like we just did, really like we could hold on to that as we get pressure from more and more people wanting to be in this special place. So I felt like that work was really important. And then when they started working on the Pine Street Woods project, they, having known my background a little bit in fundraising for the University of Idaho, and my passion for the outdoors and really my passion for the project, they approached me to help them on the capital campaign. And so that's really when I became really way more familiar with the work that Kaniksu was doing, and also just became really passionate about this idea of Pine Street Woods and allowing and bringing nature to people that maybe would not experience it, which you think is crazy. Like, how can you live in Sandpoint and not experience nature on a daily basis? But there's a lot of reasons people don't.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of barriers that keep people from experiencing time outside, and having it close in, and having and just so many of the components of Pine Street Woods and just really spoke to me as a person. And so I dove in and helped them with their capital campaign, and then which, as you know, which was very successful.
It was amazing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Great.
So tell me about, you go through this process, you do this very successful campaign, and then, where then do you go? Oh, now I'm the executive director.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, that part. So Eric went on sabbatical and then made a choice to move and take a job down in Boise at another really successful land trust, the Land Trust of the Treasure Valley. And so then Kaniksu Land Trust was searching. And at first, I have to say, I was so busy with all my other volunteer bits that I really wasn't, I wasn't in the headspace where, and my children, like I had my children at school, and I felt like I had one more year that I really needed to devote to like making sure like they were flying.
Totally.
But then I was approached by Jim Zuberbuehler, the board president, and he started just talking to me about like, is this something that you'd be interested in? And I thought, well, goodness. So that just made you shift, your headspace to like, and I should say that I thought at first when it came out, I'm like, they definitely need somebody who has a background in like conservation and who has run a land trust.
Right.
Like that's really what they probably are looking for. But he said, read the job description a little bit more closely and you'll see, like, I mean, really they were looking for somebody with passion, with background skills that really did match like what I had been doing. And I think it's important, Chris, to mention to the audience that I am an architect. So I've been doing architecture.
I was going to say,
so for me, that was like a huge leap.
Right. Cause you already have a career.
Yes, I had a career, but interestingly enough, this does link up.
Okay.
So I was working in architecture, but the majority of the projects that I wanted to take I wanted to build community through architecture.
Okay.
So do work on projects that brought community together. So for instance, helping Evans Brothers on their cafes, or I helped Panhandle Cone and Coffee. Perfect, beautiful community meeting spaces, working on a medical center that with the intent of bringing people together for conversation around, medicine.
Yeah.
So I'd been working on those types of projects, and then working in Pine Street Woods. And on that, I started, once Jim proposed this to me, I started thinking, this is just another powerful way to bring community together. And it might not be with a building, but it's still with space, right?
Right.
And so the out of doors, and in a way here in Sandpoint, the work that Kaniksu Land Trust was doing was even more powerful than the work of creating community architecture by creating these larger landscape scale spaces. And so it really started to dawn on me that I could be I always want to, as most of us do work that is truly impactful for our community. Right. So I said, I think this is the way that I can actually have a bigger impact on this region by doing this work. So that's what inspired me to throw my hat in the ring.
That's so great. And I think, my wife and I have been talking a lot lately about really identifying what we would consider to be our core cause. What's the big thing that we really believe in, that we really want to give our lives to, in the sense of community activity and those types of things. And it seems like this was such a natural fit for you. Right?
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was. One that I wouldn't have been, I don't think, I really needed somebody though to say, stop for a moment, stop spinning, because I move at a fast rate. So I don't take a lot of time to sit there and pause and ponder.
Well, and let's be honest, Jim's a calming force.
Yes.
He just kind of moves just very slow, methodical, calm, known Jim a long time, it's great. I enjoy him a lot. So tell me about kind of the history of the land trust. When did it start? How long has Kaniksu Land Trust been a thing? What's kind of some of the history on that? I know that it's a nonprofit organization, wants to promote healthy communities and healthy lands here in Idaho and Northwest Montana, but tell me a little bit about the history.
Yeah, okay. In the early 2000s, that's when Kaniksu Land Trust came about. And really, it came about as part of the mitigation efforts on the dam through Avista. So as part of that...
when you say the dam, which one?
Over by Clark Fork.
Okay, so the not Noxon, but the Clark Fork Dam. There.
Well, yeah, no, Noxon.
Is it the Noxon Dam? Mm-hmm. Because there's one more dam in between. So okay, great.
Yeah, well, those are all dams. Those are both dams that were part of this. Part of this effort.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right.
So Avista, we worked. This little conservation organization started out of that work. So really with Avista, guiding it and guiding and a lot of our original. We still have a board of director, Nate Hall, who's amazing, who was with Avista. And a lot of our projects came out of those efforts to really look at mitigation of the dam through conservation projects along those streams and creeks and that were home to bull trout. And so we really looked and focused on those areas and those areas of conservation. But through time, people's interests in conservation, because most of the conservation all the conservation we do is with private property owners. And so people started getting to know Kaniksu Land Trust or looking for a land trust to help them put their land in conservation. So we grew beyond the work just with Avista and really started doing projects that were more regionally based.
Okay.
Along that same time, in 2012, that's when Eric came to the Land Trust, there really was a need to start working in a more broad way.
Okay.
If we wanted to continue as a like really viable organization, we needed to make sure that we were appealing to the larger region. And when I say larger region, I mean Bonner, Boundary, and Sanders County in Montana. And so there really, there came a time when we really looked at like how do we make an effort to connect people more with their land? Because as we know, if we make those connections for people, then it feels way more important to them to help protect and save land. If we can connect a person to the landscape. So, so that's when we really began looking at community conservation and the work of community conservation. And when I say community conservation, what it means is really working within our community to identify, maybe to identify challenges that your community has, and how can you as a nonprofit, and it's a lot of the work that all of us do as nonprofits, how can you as a nonprofit help to serve your community?
Right. Yeah.
And so, one of the things that we found was when we went around and talked to school groups or schools, principals, teachers, they really needed support. They really needed support. There was Reagan and I were talking. Reagan's our conservation director, and at the time she worked in education. And there was an instance where she went over to a school that really had a more, I would say, a more vulnerable population. And she just sat down with the principal and said, "How can we help you?"
Right.
And at that moment, the principal really like broke down in tears to know that like somebody is here to help me and help me make the lives of these children better.
Yeah.
And so that's where our work began in reaching out and trying to connect children with the land and doing it. We knew that the way to do that was capturing the children where it was easiest to capture them all, which was in a school setting, right?
Yeah.
So that really began our work in education, and getting out into the schools and getting the children out onto the land. And that can look like bringing kids now it looks like bringing kids to Pine Street Woods. We have learning landscapes in schools. So we have created more natural, more spaces where the teachers can go in 5 minutes, be in a learning landscape and be giving that type of restorative health, emotional, physical, mental that comes with being outside to their students.
Right.
Or it can look like Camp Kaniksu, which the summer has 150 kids participating in our summer camp.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So community conservation was really, so we looked at it in that facet with education. We looked at it with recreation. How can we build more trails to bring more people outside? How can we work on that connectivity piece? And then as well, still doing that really important conservation work that is helping us have our clean water, helping us have wildlife connectivity, helping us, really helping this hold on to this land and this landscape that we love so much, and make sure that we protect it well into the future.
No, that's great. That's great. So one of the questions that you guys are very active. You're very vocal. You guys have done a great job. I would just say from a marketing perspective, everybody has heard of Kaniksu Land Trust. I don't think there's anybody who lives here who hasn't heard the name. I mean, I think that's from a marketing perspective, that's excellent. That everybody hears your name, but not a lot of people really fully understand what it is or what you do. So thank you so much for kind of breaking that down for us, because, depending on who you listen to on Facebook, Kaniksu Land Trust could be, a very negative thing. And so what are some of the biggest kind of misinformation pieces that you've heard about Kaniksu Land Trust that you'd want to clarify?
Well, I think one of the big misconceptions is I think it's important for people to remember that we work with private landowners who come to us, and want their land to put into conservation. And so, it really is, the work we do is really in reaction to what people want to do with their land. It's like a private property right? You have the right to do whatever you want to do with your land. And if that means taking it and putting it into conservation, which doesn't mean, like, I think a huge misconception is people think like, put your land into conservation, you're locking it up. You're not locking it up. You can sell your land. There are so many things you can do with your land still if you put it into conservation. It just means that the basic things, the basic health of that piece of property will be saved and will live with your land. So for instance, if you preserved, which we have this, if you preserved 60 plus acres along the Pack River, then, and there's currently one house on it, you can put in a plan that in the future you could have another house on that piece of property.
Yep.
You can, but it just talks about like what you need to do to continue to make sure your riparian corridor is kept in really good health, and how, making sure that somebody doesn't come in and clear cut the entire parcel, but use instead really healthy forest management practices. And that land just continues to be sold and sold and sold with that conservation easement in hand. So I think that's like one of the largest misconceptions. We don't go in and grab land.
Yeah.
It's only when people come to us, and of course we encourage people to come to us and think about, like, have you taken care of your land and like, I think about my own dad, who has like worked for 40 years on that land, making it a healthy forest. And so what is he going to do with it next? And how does he want that land? If he could look back, 200 years from now, how does he want that land to does he want it to look like? What's important to him? And being able to conserve it allows you to know that, like, your land will continue to be taken care of. It also, I think one of the biggest things is like ranch land and farmland, and the importance of being able to put that land into conservation. We have the woods property is in conservation because that land is so important to continue to produce for us, especially as Sandpoint grows. So having working farms and working ranches, that is so important to our future here in the whole region.
Yeah, and you're not stiff arming people into this deal, like
no.
This is, I hear some complaints and I'm always like, that doesn't seem to quite add up with what it actually is. So one of the realities is that it seems like what you've done is you've created an opportunity for people to add a layer of that easement of protections on the property to make sure that it's maintained well, and producing its desired result with the conservation easement into perpetuity, right, for long term.
Exactly.
And a lot of people forget that, unless you are diligent now to tell your land what it's going to be in the future, it will often become whatever the next person who owns it chooses for it to become. So you're actually creating an opportunity for you to direct legacy over a long period of time. So that totally makes sense to me. We are a big proponent of land trusts for housing development. So, and you and I have talked about this in the past, and I think that being able to understand that it's a voluntary transaction that some people want to partake in, and those people that want to do that feel like there's enough benefit. All we're doing is providing an opportunity for it. So
exactly.
Which is great.
An opportunity. I like that you use the word legacy. I also like to think about the stewardship. Like, in a way, you're being a steward to the land for well past the time that you're living on this earth by doing this.
And famously, you look at the boundaries of our county in this region, we don't get more land over time.
No. Exactly.
And this is part of from my perspective, this is why the prices continue to rise. And this is why, we just received new housing numbers, and Bonner County is the second highest expensive county in the state.
Wow.
Next to Sun Valley.
I was going to say Blaine County.
Blaine
County up there as number one?
Blaine County and Bonner. Blaine and then Bonner.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Ada. Right. Then Boise. So, we're second to one of the most top end resorts in the nation. As far as housing prices. So people don't grab that. fully
No.
when they think about it. So I love what's happening here with the land trust. So what are some things when we first started talking, in our kind of pre-roll conversation, you had a bunch of stuff on your plate that you're like, I got lots of good reports, right? I got lots. I'm like,
I know.
and we said,
I'm like, what of the 10 do you want me to tell them?
I said, let's just start with one. Okay, which is a great thing. So what's happening now, and what are some of the things going on that you're really excited about with Kaniksu Land Trust?
Well, let's see. So one of the things we were talking about earlier before we started the show was how during this time, nonprofits are working either like 5 times as hard because there's more programmatic need for what they do.
Let's contextualize what this time means. What's that mean to you when you talk about this time?
Yes, sorry.
Because if somebody watches this
COVID,
a year, okay.
Yes, we're talking in the midst of COVID.
Okay.
And I would say early on in COVID, even though it feels like we've been here forever and ever, and like it's the Truman Show that just what is that show that just keeps repeating?
Yeah, the Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so it has caused us to really think about the things that are important to us and how do we continue to do that? For instance, I was just talking about education. So how are we, who are in the schools on a very daily basis or bringing kids to Pine Street Woods on a daily basis, how do we do that part of our work when there are no children in the school? And so what this time has caused us to do is sort of reinvent how we're working and reinvent programs. So one of our news things that I was going to share was that we just got a small grant from the Land Trust Alliance because we had a desire to begin our education programs remotely, and they loved it.
That's great.
So we have been doing pretty much since the second week that we had the stay-home order. We have been working to produce content virtually, and in the form of little tutorial programs. So there's birch bark weaving, there's how to identify birds, to a story time. Our conservation director has been doing a story time out of his gypsy wagon, and as he builds his gypsy wagon and does his projects that he does around the house, he's very he's just a man of so many talents in terms of being able to use his hands and use the resources of nature. So we brought that into our programming. We've worked with the North Idaho Trails Coalition to create programming based on giving adults jobs to do, because we've found that adults are sort of wanting to work with their hands a lot more right now because they're restless. And so we did a bridge building video. And then we also launched what I call Solo Govo, which is a solo volunteering project where you can go watch a video on our YouTube or on our website. And then it gives you all that you need in order to go and we have 3 videos up right now, and that is to help Dave in our Camp Kaniksu Meadow take out these prickly rose bushes that hurt the feet of the kids when they run barefoot in our programs during the summer. We're putting trail signage up at Pine Street Woods. So one of them is to just do post hole digging, where we put those trail posts, and then another one is to help clean up the wide trails that are up at Pine Street Woods. So we launched this Solo Govo to encourage people to go out and volunteer by themselves, and they don't need to sign up or anything. So that LTA grant money helped us to do that, and we're just working on quickly trying to, stay ahead and come up with programming and
great.
And so that's been really fun. The second thing I was going to talk about was actually a conversation we had this morning with Heart of the Rockies. Heart of the Rockies is a sort of larger organization that holds 26 land trusts in the area of the Rockies, Idaho, Canada, Idaho, British Columbia, Alberta, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and sort of that whole Rocky band, Rocky Mountain band.
Totally.
And they work on while they work on a myriad of things, but right now we're working on a project called Keep It Connected. And they're working with all 26 land trusts, looking at sort of conservation projects that we have in our that we are working on right now, and looking at putting a layer of map of connectivity over those. And so what conservation projects are we working on that allow for the greatest amount of wildlife connectivity as we look at sort of resilient landscapes and what we need as we move forward, as we talked about, as we're getting more and more, as roads and towns grow, and how do we keep that flow of connectivity for wildlife. And so we were talking to them this morning about some amazing projects that we have in the pipeline. And they're going to come out with a portfolio from all the land trusts of sort of the most critical wildlife connectivity projects that we're working on, and they're going to work at supporting us in that work. So
great.
Really exciting. Really exciting.
I love that someone's coming to you with their best practices. Mm-hmm. Exactly. like we've seen it done this way here. We've seen it done this way here, because now you actually have, I think that's where creativity launches, is when you can see some things that are happening, because every space is unique. So that's super exciting.
Right. Well, and Chris, you think about this organization is helping us by bringing donors, but what they can show a donor is they can show like all of these land trusts, right, and how like giving money to the land trust impacts this objective of wildlife connectivity, and how somebody. And so I love that. I just feel when we look at Land Trust Alliance in the heart of the Rockies, Idaho Coalition of Land Trusts, Montana Coalition of Land Trusts, Association of Land Trusts, they are just here to support the work that we're doing and just to really help us accomplish these projects, which sometimes is not easy for a landowner. When you look at the cost, the cost of putting a land in conservation, there are things that they need, like a survey, and then it brings money to allow people that just want to do this work but might not have the resources to do it, to be able to do it, which is exciting.
No, that's super exciting. Yeah, wonderful. Do you find that with the Land Trust in getting donations of things other than land, the finances and all of that stuff, do you find that to be a pretty daunting task, or have you guys have some systems in place that kind of make things kind of move pretty easily for you?
Oh, I think that is, as most nonprofit executive directors would say, that is the real work of the executive director. Like it is a task. Yes. Yeah. And especially when you look at, bumps in the road, like what COVID is bringing, and all of the need to support all different organizations. Like it's a time where I would lie to you if I didn't say we're nervous about it. And we're hoping that our community can just still see like how impactful the work is we're doing, and how much they loved being out at Pine Street Woods, and that we have the opportunity to have more projects like that. Right. And in order to do that, we need that support. We need it. Sometimes I'm not going to say it's easy to get grant dollars. It's not easy to get grant dollars, but sometimes it's easier to get grant dollars to work on a certain project, but you often don't get the money to help support the time,
the operations
by your staff to do that and the operations. And so, so it's daunting.
Yeah. Hey, we're in the same boat, it's like,
exactly. Exactly.
So, what are some things that people can participate in if they want to help volunteer or partner with Kaniksu Land Trust locally? Like, what are some ways that people they're like, I'm interested, I enjoy conservation, I like what you're doing, how can I get involved? What are some things you'd have for some people to do?
Oh, I have so many things for people to do to get involved.
Boy, I'm like pitching softballs. Like, here, take another. Like, here's another freebie.
Here we go. Here we go. I mean, obviously, the first one, as we just talked about, is make a contribution. Yeah. That is truly helpful. So, but there are so many other ways. The one thing that I love about the work that we do is we really work in partnership and collaboration with so many other nonprofits, companies, businesses. We really try to collaborate, and we think that the collaboration is so important. So, for instance, we are getting ready to launch a rebrand, and we were going to do this before COVID, and then COVID happened, so it has sort of slowed the process down. But we're doing this in connection with the breweries and the wineries in town.
Okay.
And so if you want to find out what our new brand is going to look like, you get to go and support us by buying a growler or the winery flask that will have our new brand on it. So you'll get to see it. And at the same time, you'll be supporting the breweries that need our help, the winery that needs our help, because all businesses right now in Sandpoint need us to buy locally.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
That's a fun little collaboration that's coming in June.
That's great.
So all we're asking you to do is drink beer or wine. Hey. And
yeah, I mean, how many COVID-19 memes do we have of moms like, it's 10 o'clock?
Exactly.
Time to drink
my favorite,
wine.
the teacup for your Zoom call with a piece of tape on the tea string, and then you have wine in that cup.
Right.
I like that one. So that's a fun one. We're doing trail sponsorships at Pine Street Woods. So annually, your business can sponsor a section of trail for $1,000. So that's a great way to support the trail work that we're doing. And not only at Pine Street Woods, but as we grow and grow more trails, that will go towards trail dollars. So if trail's a passion of yours, that's a great way to support the work we do in trails. We also always have volunteer opportunities, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, two of our big partners in trails at Pine Street Woods is the Ponderay Peddlers and the Sandpoint Nordic Club. And the way to support trails at Pine Street Woods is actually to become members of those organizations too. Not only support KLT, but support those two organizations.
My wife and I, we live at the bottom of Syringa, and so we go up from the back end, and
Blue Gate.
Yep, the Blue Gate, and riding or even hiking up and around there. Or sometimes we'll go back up to the top of the ridge there, and when you get in there, the work that Ponderay Peddlers has done. For those trails back there is unbelievable. I'm just floored, because they've within 2 weeks they had all of the. I mean, they were out there with chainsaws. I mean, they took care of all those down trees. They actually cleaned up all those trails, and so it just
absolutely
props to Ponderay Peddlers. You guys do just a great job. Thank you so much.
Exactly.
It's wonderful.
So the biggest thing you can do, become a member of Ponderay Peddlers. If you love walking those trails, that's a great way to support that organization, or riding those trails. Exactly.
Yep.
You can also, so part of the Trailside donation, we have a little Trailside donation station at Pine Street Woods. And that money goes to support those organizations. So KLT, Ponderay Peddlers, Sandpoint Nordic Club. So that is a joint donation. So if you have only pocket change out of your car, just throw it in there. That can be helpful as well. And then you can also support our camp by giving $100 for a kid's camp scholarship.
Cool.
And then I just want to also say there's also so many ways that you can volunteer your support to us as well. Those solo right now, the safe way is to do the Solo Govo projects. And we'll probably keep increasing those because a lot of people they want to help, but they don't really want to do it in a group, especially right now, or they just want to do it on their own time, right?
Or
they don't have time on a set.
Yeah. I don't want to commit.
Exactly. I don't want to commit, but I'll put a post hole digger in my back of my truck.
Right. And there's so many, there's so many demands on so many people right now to do so many different things. And just, some of the people who've been out of work have given their time and energy in some of these things. And now that work's opening up and things are starting to move again, that concept of, I got a Saturday.
Yep.
We can go do something, take the family, go give back to the community. It's great.
Yeah. And a lot of these projects, the Solo Govo, if you have 30 minutes, if you have 10 minutes, you've accomplished a post hole,
Right.
So they're pretty simple.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's super fun. That's awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else surrounding Kaniksu Land Trust that you want to talk about, or do you want to share anything more about the rebrand? Like what exactly is being rebranded?
Yeah. So our logo, it's our logo work.
Oh, okay. So the logos, okay.
The logo is really what we worked on. And really it's trying to reflect it's trying to reflect our association now with Pine Street Woods. So we have a sort of a co-brand between Kaniksu Land Trust and Pine Street Woods so that they look similar. Okay. And it was so our last brand it had a icon on it that looked to some people like the world. So it looked more like it didn't really represent the work we do on a local level. Mm-hmm. And so we've just given it it's really freshening it up and incorporating the colors that represent water, sky, land, and golden hues of farm field. So it's really not trying to make those connections, not fire, no. Really trying to make those connections between the work that we do and the land that we try to save. And then the cedar, and then you'll see there's a cedar bough incorporated, and that's just talks about, as we know, a cedar is a sign, is a plant of perpetuity and
strength, all that kind of stuff.
Strength, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep, you know how those logos go.
I do.
It's pretty exciting, though. We're excited.
That's awesome. That's great. Mm-hmm. That's great. So anything else that you want to share about Kaniksu Land Trust or about what you've got going on in your world?
One more thing.
Okay.
We are doing it was going to be an in-person trail run.
Okay.
In July, which is now turning into a virtual trail run through the whole month of July.
Okay.
And we are going to see how many miles our community can run, bike, walk. And so the event is called Run for the Woods. It will be our annual trail run. Okay. And so look for information on that coming out.
And that's going to be in July?
It's July, yes.
The whole
month.
It'll
be in July.
Yep. Okay, cool.
The whole month of July.
Yep.
We're going to calculate miles.
Go as you will. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. Well, it seems like with all the craziness happening with COVID-19 and with, like you and I said, as nonprofits, we're busier now than probably we ever have been. I know that's how I feel. We're in project mode and trying to get some houses built, and it is busy. But with all of that, the outlook for the future, when we look ahead to the success of Kaniksu Land Trust, sounds like you're excited about the future. Seems like you got a lot of great things going on there.
We are so excited for the future. We have so many wonderful projects in the pipeline that we are so excited to be able to, at some point, share with everybody.
Of course.
And then hopefully there will just continue to be more and more. So
that's awesome. Well, Katie, we're going to go and wrap up our time here. It's been really good having the conversation with you. Of course, if you are a follower of the Bonner Breakdown, the information, whether you're listening to us on iTunes or on Stitcher or Spotify or iHeartRadio, any of those places that you listen to us, information is on the podcast for how to get in contact with Kaniksu Land Trust. And of course, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, in the information section are all the links and information that you'll need to connect with Katie and the great work done at Kaniksu Land Trust. Of course, we want you to like, follow, subscribe, and share out these videos as much as possible. And with that, we say thanks, Katie. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. It was great to be with you.
Yeah, super fun. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Hey guys, I want to take a second and just say thank you to all of you who've supported us in the first 2 seasons. Special thanks to Ting. Special thanks to Bonner Community Housing Agency. Bonner Community Housing Agency is still going to continue to host our special housing episodes, but Bonner Breakdown's going independent. So since we're going independent, I need your support. And in order for us to be able to continue to get all of our podcast feeds going to everywhere that they need to go in order for production to continue to be affordable. What we need to do is get some people to sponsor us at patreon.com. So if you go to patreon.com/Barnard Breakdown, you can support us financially, but it's not just a gift. We want to give something back to you. So I'm going to give you all access from the very beginning to the very end of every single interview. You'll get to see outtakes, the bloopers. You'll get to see all the funny parts that maybe get edited out, and maybe even some of the conversations that are a little more dicey that we say, it's a little too racy for Facebook. Hey, you can get access to all of that at patreon.com/Barnard Breakdown. So with that, we want to say thank you to you, and we're hoping that you will come alongside and support us at patreon.com/Barnard Breakdown. Again, do your social media thing. Follow, like, subscribe, get us out there. Get us over 500 on Facebook likes. We need to get over 100 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, that's my big goal right now, is to build this YouTube sponsorship up. Subscriptions up. The reason is because we actually have more access to tools as a creator if we can at least get 100 subscribers and start building some momentum there. So with that, like, follow, share, subscribe, do all your social media things, and we are so grateful to you. Thank you so much for watching the Barnard Breakdown. We are in season 3. We are 6 months into this show, and it's only getting better. All right, have a great day.